In episode 21 of Roots of Humanity, I talked to my friend Bram from the Netherlands about Dutch culture. Why is the Netherlands one of the best all-around countries? Have you ever wondered why biking is so popular here?
I think that's to do with the population density, and everything is so flat that it's just the easiest way to get around.
Bram and I talk about Amsterdam, Tilburg, Utrecht, and Baarle, a crazy patchwork of Belgian and Dutch enclaves in the southern part of the Netherlands. Tune in to learn about Dutch influence around the world, why intergenerational trauma from World War II is so important to Dutch identity, and why Holland and the Netherlands are not the same thing.
And with that all being said, let's dive right into it.
Bram, what's going on, man?
Good to see you again. Yeah, it's been great. How have you been?
Yeah, it's been good, man. I'm having withdrawals from visiting Netherlands. It's just an amazing place, and we were just there together. We filmed some fun videos, and I always tell people that Netherlands is like one of the best countries in the world, really, all around countries, and I'm excited to dive deep into Dutch culture and all that fun stuff with you.
Yeah, great. I can't wait to tell you about it.
Are you in your house right now?
Yes, I am. The beautiful house in the Dutch southern countryside.
The one that you let me sleep in?
Yes, even.
Appreciate that, man. You saw that world map
no
right
worries.
on the wall?
Yeah, there it is. See, you pointed out where it should go next.
The one that I blessed?
Yeah, it's got your blessing now.
Absolutely, man. So, Netherlands, I don't know where to start, man. My first time going there was 2012. I went to Amsterdam and loved it. And I've been at least 10 times, somewhere between 10 and 15 times. And I really enjoyed my last trip because I got to visit the southeastern regions, which I haven't really been before. I went to Eindhoven briefly once, and Eindhoven wasn't that great. But going into Tilburg and Breda and Utrecht, if I said it right.
Yeah,
How do you say it? Utrecht. Was just absolutely amazing, and
the countryside, yeah, I think it's beautiful.
It's a totally different vibe than big city Amsterdam. Amsterdam should be its own country, actually.
Yeah, definitely. When I go to Amsterdam, I really feel like a foreigner. The first few times, I think literally the first time when I went as a kid, I was so scared to go there the first time. My mother told me, "Oh, you should be so careful." And it was just scary to be there. And even when I go there now, I have to speak English all the time. I can't speak Dutch anywhere. Everyone speaks English. It's just a whole nother world, definitely. And Utrecht, for example, in types of architecture, it's kind of similar, but then without all the tourists, all the hassle, all the... Yeah, just it feels so foreign to me, Amsterdam.
Yeah, Utrecht, I just want to say right off the bat, it's my favorite city in Netherlands, top 10 in Europe. It is exactly like Amsterdam, but I've been talking about with the canals, with the way the buildings look, with the plazas and all these like beautiful little shops. But I mean, I saw very, very, very few tourists, which is really exciting. It's still kind of a hidden gem. It's a university town, so there's a lot of young kids there, and I highly recommend checking it out. What is it, like 45 minutes from Amsterdam by train?
Oh, less, I think. Probably under half an hour. It's got direct trains, and it's really easy to get to, definitely.
Can we talk about this bike parking lot for a second?
I know about it. I can talk about it.
Yeah. I'll explain it first. So in Utrecht, there's an amazing, it's the biggest in the world, parking lot for bikes. It's like 4 or 5 levels. You like ride the bike in, go around the corner, park it, stack them on top of each other, pay the price, and it literally functions as like an airport parking lot, like I have here in Arizona. I just drove my car there. You circle around and you park the car, but it's all bicycles, and it's so cool and it's so Dutch. Why do Dutch people ride bikes so much?
Well, I think that's to do with the population density mainly, and the matter that we are just very flat. So every city is very small in size, but still has a lot of people in it, and everything is so flat that it's just the easiest way to get around, and all the streets are a bit narrow, so the bike is just the easiest way, and there's so many. So this bike parking lot, or whatever you want to call it, indeed is a good example, I think. It's just a very surreal place to be in. I was just cycling around it early last week, and I think I almost got lost. I just lost the whole exit. I didn't know where to go anymore. But I think Utrecht in general has one of the busiest bike crossings or busiest biking lanes in the whole country, actually.
in the world, man. Like very few countries bike as much as a culture than the Netherlands. I mean, you have Denmark. It's really only Denmark because like in Sweden, yeah, they bike, but not that much. In Germany, they bike, but not that much.
The distances are just bigger in Sweden, Germany, for example, because it's much less densely populated. So getting around, you just need a car or public transport, I think. But here, everything is reachable within bike distance normally.
It's really cool, man. As a visitor, like riding a bike around Amsterdam or Rotterdam or Utrecht is just so surreal. I mean, it's also a little bit scary because you're surrounded by so many crazy bikers and they go pretty fast. Some of them go pretty fast, so you got to really watch out. But that's one of my favorite things about Dutch culture is the bicycle lifestyle. What other things do you enjoy about? You've also traveled all around Europe. What other things do you think set the Netherlands apart in terms of culture than the other parts of Europe?
Well, I think whenever I travel, one thing that stands out is how well organized it is. Just like Germany, it's really known to be very strict, really, be on time, follow the rules. It's all very well organized, which can be annoying at times because it kind of lacks the freedom as well. Whereas when you're traveling in Eastern Europe, I feel like everything is just a bit, you can kind of do whatever you want. It's not that big of a deal. And in Netherlands, just everywhere there's this rule, this rule, this rule, this rule. There's just rules everywhere. And that can be a negative, but also a very positive thing in how well developed everything is, how smooth everything works, the public transport, for example. So that's always a good place to come home after traveling, I think, because everything is just well organized.
We have rules here in the US, but people are obsessed with their freedom of speech and they'll just do whatever they want and not follow them. But not only that, we're just not as punctual. Actually, I think Americans in general are pretty punctual, but the moment you go to the Netherlands or Germany, and it's just like the train, if it leaves at 7:29, it leaves at 7:29.
Yeah, literally. Well, when my bus is supposed to be there at 7:29 and it doesn't arrive at the exact same minute, I'm literally looking around like, what's going on? There must be something up with the bus. There's some delay. It's really a thing.
It's a great thing. I'm punctual. If I'm going to meet someone for lunch at 7, I want to meet them there at 7, not 7:30. So I appreciate that about Dutch culture. I also find Dutch people to be very blunt.
Yeah, definitely.
They just say it how it is.
Yeah, they won't hold back. They'll just tell you right in your face what's up. I think, it's kind of a part of the efficiency as well. From what I've heard, it comes from the old trading history, because salesmen in Netherlands would ship stuff around from Amsterdam to all over Europe, and all the spices, all the stuff, and so the Dutch people needed to be very direct in their trading and very efficient. And that's from what I've heard where it comes from. The Dutch people are still very direct in their manners and how they do stuff.
I just think it's funny, like people you don't even know, like, or even if you know them, like if they don't like your shirt or if their shirt's ugly, they'll just like say that to your face. Whereas in other places, like it could be offensive if you like call somebody out for something.
Yeah, well, that's the difference between Dutch and Belgian culture that I've heard from Belgians living in Netherlands. That in Netherlands, people, especially among their friends, they'll just insult each other, make fun of each other, just kind of jokingly, and even with people that aren't really close friends yet. Whereas in Belgium, the border is a bit different. So when a Belgian comes to Netherlands and he just gets insulted for fun, he'd be easily offended. And when a Dutch person goes to Belgium, he would just go around insulting people and would get a bit of an awkward situation sometimes. That's what he told me, at least.
On the topic of Belgium, I want to dive into this town called Baarle, which we visited together. In fact, the longer version of this story is that you reached out to me in like February of this year, which is 10 months ago, to take me to this town because I showed interest on Instagram. And then I flew to Amsterdam and you were going to meet me, but then you tested positive for COVID.
Yeah, literally the evening before. It was such a bummer for me as well. I was really looking forward to showing you around, and then...
That was really unfortunate at that time, but I'm sure things were pretty closed because of the pandemic, and also it was cold. So thankfully, I was able to come back this summer, and we reconnected, and we visited this absolutely fascinating town called Baarle. It's called Baarle Nassau and Baarle Hertog.
Yes, exactly.
Which is basically the Dutch and the French. No, it's not French. It's the Dutch names of both towns. You know what? I'm going to stop talking, and I want you to describe to me what is Baarle.
Okay, so Baarle-Nassau and Baarle-Hertog it's an enclave within the Netherlands that's Belgian, and within the enclave there's Dutch enclaves and Belgian enclaves, and just a whole mess on a map. It looked like someone spilled their coffee on a map or something. And it's got this whole historical medieval history behind it that I won't bore you with again.
No. Come on. We're on a podcast and we have time. How did it come to be?
If I remember correctly, it's because some duke used to own this land, and then he made an arrangement with another duke to recognize his land. And in return, he got some plots of land around the Baarle region, but some plots were already occupied by farmers, by other dukes or whatever. So he just got some random spots of land around his region. And then that developed on to become the borderline between the Netherlands and Belgium, really. So Baarle-Nassau Nassau comes from is a Dutch thing, and Hertog means duke, so that's why it kind of splits there with Baarle Duke. So that was the part that was owned by the duke, and Nassau was the Dutch part. So that's in a nutshell the history.
So an exclave, for those who don't know, is a portion of land that is completely surrounded in all areas by a different country. Almost like how an island is surrounded by water. So that water would be a different country. So Lesotho is an example of an exclave within South Africa. The Vatican is an exclave in Italy. San Marino is as well. I guess Monaco is not, because it also has water access, which is not owned by anyone. Right? I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. You're a geography guy like me, so I think about these things. And then you have Baarle. So think about southern Netherlands, not on the border of Belgium. It's actually properly in the Netherlands. And then you have all these pockets of Belgium. So you'll be like walking from one street to the next, and there's a little sign on the floor that says you've just entered Belgium. And then within those Belgian pockets is more Dutch land. But like they're really small. It's like you can walk from one end to the other in like 30 seconds, maybe, or less.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's crazy. Like the one road that we went to just before we headed back, if you just walk on that road, you can cross the border like 3-4 times within a few minutes. It's really insane.
The most fascinating thing is that like they're two different countries, so you have two different sets of laws. I was going to say two different languages, but really they all speak Dutch or Flemish, but it's the same language. In Belgium schools, they're taught French, whereas in Dutch schools, you're not, right?
Well, we are taught French actually, but I think the level of French is generally higher in Belgian schools. But from what we've learned there is that they've got an elementary school that they share, but after they have to decide which high school they go to. So either one in Belgium or Netherlands. So that's kind of where they split their accents up. So some have a more Dutch accent and some have a more Belgian accent, even though they live in the same region, because there's just no high schools in the town. But for the legal differences, the drinking age is quite an interesting part of it, because in Netherlands the drinking age is 18 and in Belgium it's 16. So whenever you go to a bar, you just have to cross the street to be legal drinking, and on the other side of the street you can be illegally drinking. So it's a really weird situation to be in.
It's so weird, man. And the fact that you have like front doors of houses that are split between Belgium and Netherlands, I guess the way that they decide where you pay taxes is wherever your front door is. That's kind of the decision point. Yeah. So people would actually move their door on the other side of the house to pay lower taxes.
Yeah, it's a very weird situation. They can just decide when the door is on the borderline, they can decide themselves which country they want to pay taxes to.
You could be sleeping in the same house as someone in different beds, and you're sleeping in different countries.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I don't know. As a traveler and as a geography whiz, and I don't know. I'm just like, there's no other place in the world like that, and there's not even a place that's close to being like that. Can you think of any other place that you've heard about that is a similar situation? I can't.
Not really. Not with that many
looking
borders.
At the map right now, I don't see any. No, like usually, if it's like Vatican, but you just enter like one place and then you exit.
Yeah.
Like it's just so interesting.
Yeah, there is some funny enclaves, but this one is just really unique because it's that many small plots of land, I guess.
But the cool thing about Baarle is that the people do seem to be accepting of each other, and they all live together, and there's very much a community feel in Baarle.
Yeah, there's no rivalry or anything.
No, the cheese, whether it's Belgium cheese or Dutch cheese, it's good cheese. And
Yeah, it's sold in the same
you
store.
know, the beer is delicious in both countries. The fries, the bitterballen. Actually, that's Dutch. That's not Belgium, right?
Yeah, it
Bitterballen.
is, but still delicious. And yeah, that's
Um,
a good mix of Belgium and Netherlands, I think, comes together there. You can have the Belgian beer with the bitterballen. But I think the whole region, the southern province of Brabant, the one that I live in and that you've been to now on this trip, it's almost seen as a buffer zone between Belgium and Netherlands sometimes, because we kind of have some Belgium things to us, like our dialect's a bit different, our accent is different, our G's are soft, like in the Flemish dialect, and yeah, kind of the more laid-back atmosphere as well. It's what it's known for. Brabant's known to be really Bourgondisch, is the word. It's like enjoying good food, enjoying good times, enjoying gezelligheid, another Dutch word for the good atmosphere.
I want to talk more about Dutch culture in the sense of, first of all, the education system. I don't know what you guys are doing, but it's working. I mean, all you guys seem to be really smart. You could even go to the small countryside where you live and find people like you who are brilliant and who are just like, are highly educated. So I don't know if you know the answer to this, but why?
Well, I don't know if people are higher educated than in other countries, but I can explain how the school system works, I guess, which I think has its flaws as well. Because at age 12, you finish elementary school at age 12, then you have to take a test, and that kind of decides which high school level you're allowed to go into. So when you have a high score at the test when you're 12, you can go to the highest high school level, which takes 6 years. And when you just have a bad day, you go to the lowest one, which takes 4 years. You can kind of switch around by getting either really good grades or dropping down, or you can still work your way up or down, but you kind of get separated quite early on at an early age as well. And then from there on, I guess only on the highest high school level you can go to university. So going to university is quite a prestigious thing here compared to other countries where everything would be called university, every higher education.
Mm-hmm.
But I think generally, historically speaking, it's also known to have high education because of its tolerance. When there were some troubles in France, the Huguenoten, they were called, were not accepted in France, and they were taken all into Netherlands. Every belief, every religion, everyone was taken into the country, and so a lot of high educated people got into the country and kind of had its boom there in the golden age then back then. So that's a historical answer there.
And you guys are all taught English from a young age.
In elementary school at least, like 7, 8. Now they've started even earlier. They'll start at age 5, 6, I believe. So it's really becoming a second language that's really commonly used as well, even for Dutch speakers among each other. I've seen friends of mine who are both Dutch just have full-on conversations in English because somehow they feel like it's a better way to express themselves or something. You'd see that a lot now, a lot of code switching.
You seem to be as comfortable and as good at English than you are at Dutch, or am I wrong?
Yeah, almost. Well, even in Dutch I'm still a bit more comfortable, obviously, but I feel like I'm quite confident in speaking English, and I feel like everyone is. But yeah, maybe it has to do with my education. I'm following a study that's almost all in English now, but I feel like the general level of English is the highest in the entire world for a non-native country. It's high up the list together with all the Scandinavian countries and stuff.
Aside from Norway and Sweden and Iceland and Denmark, I would say, well, the Netherlands is above all of them, but I'm saying aside from those countries, there's really nobody even close that's a non-native English-speaking country. You could argue Philippines or Singapore or Hong Kong, but the moment you kind of get out...
Yeah, but these are kind of native, I guess.
Yeah, but like, go to the countryside and you won't find so many, or older generation. Older generation won't speak. I guess like Namibia, but I think that is a native English-speaking country. I don't know if it's native, but they speak really good English.
Yeah, well, at least they have some colonial pasts. The same with Hong Kong. I think Hong Kong teaches English in a lot of schools, like as a first language as well.
English is the official language of Namibia. There's also a couple other Afrikaans and stuff, which is Dutch.
And it used to be a German colony, actually.
It used to be a German colony. Yep. So you told me something interesting about Dutch words in the English language. Can you share those again?
Well, especially in American English, there's a lot of Dutch words. I'll just see if I can find them now. For example, the word bos comes from the Dutch baas. The word for cookie comes from the Dutch koekje. But as well in place names, especially in around New York, for example, you've got Harlem, comes from Haarlem. Brooklyn comes from Breukelen. Rhode Island from Rhode Island. Rhode means red, and the soil was a bit red, so they called it Red Island, basically. So all this stuff comes into American English mainly. It's not really British English, I believe. And as well, iceberg, which means ice mountain, kind of. So like an iceberg in the sea, or iceberg letters as well. Just some examples. I think there's plenty of them to see how big the influence was, actually.
I can't believe that Brooklyn is actually a place in the Netherlands. I'm looking at it right now because I was just in Brooklyn. It's called Breukelen. It's spelled different, but it's the same.
Yeah, there's not much there, actually.
Harlem is like a suburb of Amsterdam.
It's not really a suburb. It's really a different city, but it's very close to Amsterdam. And culturally, I think it has a lot of similarities. Haarlem is quite a nice place, actually. Also, not a recommendation for people in Amsterdam.
It's not a great place in New York, Harlem.
What's it like?
It's not a great place. It can be a little dangerous.
Yeah, is it? Oh, shit.
It's more of like a neighborhood, but it's not really a sought out place that tourists would go to. It's just north of Central Park, and it can be a little bit dangerous up there. But, I heard that there's some trendy places to eat and go out, nightlife and stuff. I just haven't really been up there very much.
I think Netherlands is really safe generally. I've never really felt unsafe. Maybe in some suburbs of Rotterdam or Amsterdam that you wouldn't be there at night. But other than that, I would be anywhere in the country at any time of day and it would feel completely safe. Have you experienced the same?
Bro, it's like the safest. It's the safest of safe.
Yeah, definitely. How does it compare to like South Korea, for example, in safeness?
Korea's safer. I would say Japan, Korea, Taiwan are the safest countries in the world. Singapore. Yeah, most of Asia's safe, super safe. Thailand, it's all really safe. But Scandinavia and Western Europe is pretty safe. Canada's pretty safe, but the Middle East is safe. Like Emirates is really safe. Qatar is safe.
There's so many misconceptions.
How does it feel to be Dutch when you travel and you represent Dutch culture? Do you feel proud?
Yeah, definitely. I do feel proud. Normally, Dutch people tend to mock their country a lot and complain about their country. And within the Netherlands, they would also be, oh, Netherlands sucks, this is wrong with it. They'll always be complaining. But whenever they go abroad, they'll protect everything that's Dutch. Like even points that are not even behind, like prostitution, drug use. They just protect their country at all costs for some reason. But I feel like the Dutch proudness is not really a thing as in other, for example, Southern European countries. I've seen a map that gave the percentage of people that would fight for their country when a war broke out. The Netherlands was the lowest in the whole of Europe. So Dutch people, I guess they're proud to be Dutch, but they wouldn't really die for the country, or it's not really a big nationalistic thing. They would still benefit being Dutch and loving to live there, but there's not really a strong nationalistic feeling unless the national team plays, which they're doing now and they're winning.
An interesting thing about like nationalism and like history and stuff and cultural identity is you guys seem to know a lot about what happened in the past in the Netherlands in terms of World War II, World War I, before World War I, and in the US, like we learn a lot about where we're from. Like I had a class about Arizona for whatever reason. They thought it was really important that I knew the history of Arizona, and this is in like third grade. But like I didn't learn that much about the Civil War, and I still don't know that much about the Civil War, which happened in the 1860s in the US. And World War II, I guess maybe because there wasn't that much combat that was on the US soil. It was mostly like American troops in Germany, in Netherlands, and even like the war, all the wars, like Afghanistan, whatever. It's like far removed because it's on the other side of the world. But I guess maybe I'm answering the question, but the reason why you guys are so familiar is because it happened like that church that you took me to was half bombed in your backyard or in the nearby town. So is it really important that all you guys just know about history and what happened, or?
I feel like there's some things lacking in history classes about the things that we did wrong, for example, in the colonial past in Indonesia and Suriname, that stuff that we barely talk about and should be talked about more. But Second World War is something that gets talked about a lot. Every chapter in history class it will be mentioned. We'll know everything about it, every movie, every book. There's just so much information because it's still so active and so relevant, I think. Well, even though it's like 80 years ago, it can still really affect people. For example, my grandmother's father died in the war, and how that still affected her life, and that affected my mother's life. And so it kind of lives in a generational pain that you hear a lot now. I think that term, like pain that passes on through generations. But you can still see the effects, definitely. Yeah, the church even in Geertruidenberg, which got bombed, and you can still see definitely the effects and the attitude towards Germans as well. People would still feel some kind of despise against Germans, I think. A lot of them, it's getting better now among the young people, but older people will definitely have some negative attitude towards Germans often. So it's definitely a big topic here.
What time is it for you? It's late.
It's almost 11 at night. Where are you? You back in Arizona now? How were the weddings actually? They looked fun.
It was good, yeah. I had some weddings in New York. It was nice. You know, New York is so incredibly diverse, and it's cool. After going to every country, it's cool to like go to a place like New York and like go to these communities of these pockets of like Tibetan people, Nepali people, Pakistani people. It's just a cool place. Like I would never live there in a million years, but visiting is so great, New York City. So that was fun. Now I'm back home in Arizona and just getting ready to go to Qatar tomorrow and then South Sudan.
Oh, wow. Awesome. South Sudan, yeah.
So speaking of South Sudan, those are actually the tallest people in the world. But if you Google the tallest country, it comes up as Latvia and Netherlands, both.
Yeah. Yes, I think South Sudan is just one specific tribe that's very tall, but maybe on average it's probably not as tall as Netherlands and Serbia as well is very tall, I believe.
Yeah, but I disagree. Like the tribe in the South Sudan is like 60% of the population, and they are giants, man. They're super tall. And it's interesting because the next country over, which is Central African Republic, they have the shortest people in the world, which is the Pygmy tribe. And they're like neighboring countries. It's crazy. But yeah, I mean, Dutch people are tall. Like if you're 6 foot tall, what is that in meters? If you are 1.8 meters, you're not even that tall. Whereas here, like 6 feet is like...
Yeah, here for me that would be, well, not really small, but it would definitely be smaller than I am. I'm 190. So I don't know how much that is in feet, but...
So you are 6'3", and which is like, you're 6'2.5", which is like very tall.
Yeah, and here it's quite average. You'll see like, a lot of Dutch people being taller than me.
Do you have any friends that are 2 meters tall?
I think one is 96, I believe. So he's almost 2 meters. Another friend who lives in Sweden is almost 2 meters. And yeah, a lot of friends actually are just very tall.
I am 1.7 meters.
Yeah, that's so small. Did you feel small when you walked around the streets here in Utrecht?
I definitely felt small. I'm just a short Jew. Cool, man. So anything else you want to say about Netherlands to people? Like if people were going to visit the Netherlands for 1 week, where would you tell them to go?
My main advice would just get out of Amsterdam as soon as possible. It's fun for a day. But if you want to see Netherlands, don't stay in Amsterdam. Go to Utrecht. Maybe if you have time, even go to Maastricht in the very south. If you want to see a vibrant, youthful city, go to Groningen in the north. Go to Breda for the Brabants gezelligheid, the beers, the atmosphere in the south. Just there's so much more to see than just Amsterdam in terms of culture and in terms of just the whole experience. That would be the main thing. And try Dutch fries with bitterballen and croquettes.
And a lot of mayo.
Yes, definitely. Oh, do you remember the fries place we went to? That was such a weird experience with the party going on.
There was a Guinean party. Guinea from West Africa.
Yeah.
And there was like 200 of them. And they were all wearing like
it was huge.
Traditional outfits like straight out of Guinea. So it was really interesting to see them. That was a cool experience.
Yeah, and they were so stoked to see you.
Oh, another point. Holland is the Netherlands, but the Netherlands is not Holland. This is really important because a lot of tourists, Americans, will just call it Holland. And I did this too until I realized that Holland is a province which includes Amsterdam,
It's 2 provinces actually. It's North Holland and South Holland. And North Holland is Amsterdam and South Holland is The Hague and Rotterdam, for example. So it's 2 provinces that were just close to England.
It's not even like the majority of the country, Holland.
Yeah, nah. Maybe population-wise it's quite big because of the big cities, but it's definitely not the only thing there is.
Exactly.
So make sure to say the Netherlands and not Holland.
Yes, the Netherlands. The Netherlands. And yeah, I just dreaming about coming back there. I know it'll be soon, and we'll have to explore. We'll have to find some other really crazy stories in the Netherlands. I'm sure that they exist.
Urk, the crazy island Urk will be next. Yeah, it used to be an island and now it's part of the mainland. It's where all the crazy religious people live, and it's a very closed-off community. Very interesting.
What do you mean, like, what kind of religion?
Just Christians, but they're the strictest Christians in the whole country. Like, they have the highest percentage of people going to church. They've got the biggest families. They've got the highest percentage of young people. And they barely really go out of their village or marry out of their village. They have their own dialect that's really distinct and really different to any other dialect in the country. And it's just a very unique place.
I'm looking at pictures. They look like Amish people.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, you could compare it to Amish people almost.
Would they wear, the women wear this like thing over their head?
Yeah, that's a traditional clothing that they wear. When I went there for my research, it was during Urkerdag, so it was like their special day, and they were all dressed up in their costumes, and it was such a cool experience.
This is so interesting. These pictures, man.
So next time you're in Europe or Netherlands, I'll take you there.
Cool, man. Well, go get yourself some sleep. It's been a really great chat. Thank you, Bram, for your time, and wish you all the best, and we'll be in touch.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me, and have a nice day.
Appreciate you, bro. Thank you so much for tuning in to this podcast episode. If you feel inspired by this conversation, please share it with somebody who would enjoy listening. And if you're here for the first time, make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever else you get your podcasts. Also, don't forget to leave a review. Every week, I'm going to be looking through them and highlighting my favorite one. And with that all being said, I will see you guys next week.